Welcome to July Overview. I can't believe here we are already overviewing July. Hello and welcome. If this is your first time, we're so glad to have you here. If this is your 10th time, we're so glad to have you here. Say hello in the chat if everything looks and sounds good. I always just like to make sure everything's coming through good before we really dive in. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Sierra. Hello, Ayabel. So fun to see some familiar names here. I'm so excited to dive into July. As usual, I have a few updates for you, a few updates and announcements, things you can look forward to up in the upcoming months of summer. And we're going to do some a trivia giveaway again. And then after this, not after, at the end, I do have a more involved a craft tutorial for you today for our hot air balloon. So that's going to be really fun, a little more involved. So we'll see how long that takes. Hello, everyone. I see some more friends hopping on. So good to see you as always. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Who's excited for July? Well, first of all, who's enjoying June so far? Our first month of summer curriculum. It has been such a joy to see you all sharing your photos. Picnic week, we're upcoming on gardening week, seeing how everyone is enjoying getting into their rhythms of summer. It has been a joy. First time, welcome Kim for your first live stream. This is so fun. Always love to have new members. I'm so glad that everyone has been loving June and the beginning of summer so far. I'm always so glad to hear that. Hello, and welcome. All right, so let's begin to dive in. I'm so glad you all are here. So glad we have some new friends joining us. We always have so much fun. As I mentioned, I'm going to go over some announcements. We're going to do some giveaways, and we're going to go over a full overview of what's upcoming for your July curriculum, give you all the tips and tricks you need to know, and then we'll finish off with a really in-depth craft tutorial. So once you get to that sort of tricky craft, you can actually have some fun with it instead of frustration, because that's what we want, fun over frustration, which is why I am here. All right, so first of all, if you were on your community app yesterday, I just want to say a big thank you to our amazing community. I want to give you all a big hug because yesterday I shared a little bit of a reach out for some encouragement for Nathaniel, because as you probably all know, he is slaving away for these weekly audiobooks, which is an unpaid project. It is really a gift of love to your families and your children to make these stories come alive in this magical way. And he's tired. It's been a long time of these weekly deadlines grinding away, and he pours so much of himself into these with his narration and the scoring of the piano and the voice acting he does, and just so many layers go into it. So I shared a little, let's give him some encouragement, and you all showed up, and the comments that you guys shared, the stories you've shared of how these stories have impacted your families and your children brought us to tears, and we're just so overwhelmed with gratitude for you all to take the time to share those and encourage him. And he is feeling so invigorated, and he says all the time that goes way further than any dollar amount could ever go as far as how much it means to him to keep him going. And a few of you also asked, which brought up a really great idea, is there a local PO box or an address that you could send some mail or letters, especially from your kids? We don't have one yet, but I am going to be working on getting something set up, a little fan mail box, so that if you or your children want to send Nathaniel an actual letter, maybe some fan art, anything you want to brighten his day and just let him know how much these stories mean to you and your children, that would just make his day, absolutely. So I will let you know when I have an address, a little fan mail address that I'll be working on. I will let you know when that is available for you to send some things, and I know that would just be so special for him, and hopefully so special for you and your children as well, to actually send some Santa mail, if you will. So that's going to be so sweet. So thank you again for everyone who commented. All of those comments really just mean more than you know. And now he's back in the box today, working hard for your next episode that will come out on Thursday. Each of these are, of course, so special, and he really pours so much of himself into these. So thank you all for that. I have a few announcements. Obviously, we had our mug restock, which went so quick. My dear goodness, y'all surprised us. We do usually try to make sure we have enough stock for everyone who wants them, but we were slightly unprepared for how many people wanted those Hamilton mugs. So those flew off the shelves. I'm so sorry that those went so quickly, but that's exciting for everyone that you all wanted those so much. So those are already in the works. Of course, they are handmade, as we have mentioned. So those take a little while to restock, but right now, we heard from the mug makers that hopefully we'll be getting those in stock mid-August. So you can kind of mark that ish time frame. And we did a slightly larger quantity restock this time. So hopefully everyone who wants one can get one. So keep that in mind. Let's see, I have someone mentioning that is the sound lagging, so I just want to make sure that everyone else were synced, and maybe it might be a personal internet connection thing, but I do just want to check. Okay, not for me. All right, so I might just, so a few says lags, a few says we're okay. Lag, not synced. Okay, Josiah, any tips there, or that's just might be the way it is? Okay, we have a mixed bag, so it might be, I even see it lagging on my end too. Okay, I'm not sure if we can fix that. I don't think so. All right, so I apologize for any lag, but remember that we will post the high quality replay later this week that will be perfectly in sync. So we'll do with what we can with whatever our internet capacities allow. Sometimes those do limit our bandwidth. So I apologize for that. Hopefully it's still decent enough. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna keep rolling. So I apologize for any slight lag. I'm not in control of the internet. All right, so what was I saying? Mugs will restock hopefully mid-August with those. And in the meantime, we do have some other fun things coming. We're going to do a little launch in July. On July 6th, we have a few fun things. We had teased these were sneakily on the site just for really a prototype, and a few of you caught these, but these are going to be going live on July 6th. Our little Wondergarten hat. These are really, really fun. Mine is a little dirty because I wore it camping. So these will be coming in stock on July 6th. They're super fun, super great for summer, just really cute. And I've been enjoying this, actually. I'm not going to put it on now because it'll mess up my hair. But yes, these are coming July 6th. And also July 6th, we are very excited for a music theory silk. Beautiful, right? So this is a bit of a different size than our other ones, but this is just beautiful as always. So Music Theory Silk is coming July 6th as well. And we're going to look forward to doing some restocks. I believe some of our Songs of Summer CD is currently out of stock, and a few of those other little products. So we'll be restocking as much as we can, and we'll have some new, I'm going to hold this up just one more time because they're really, really beautiful. So Music Theory Silk, hat, some restocks, all of those are coming July 6th, kind of a little mid-summer restock there with some new products. This is really beautiful. And the size of this, you can really see, the notes. So if you'll hang this above your piano, this is a very functional silk here. And fun/funny fact, Nathaniel, the reason Nathaniel drew this chalkboard is because he cannot read music. So he is this incredible musician composer, but he cannot read music. And so he drew this chalkboard to sit above his piano. So when he's figuring things out, he can look what note is which. So I was of the two, I was actually the one of us to study music theory. And so I helped design this for him and with him. And then of course he made it stunning. So many things. We've got the circle of fifths, we have pentatonic scale, diatonic scale. We have this really cool note value chart with the note value lengths depicted as vegetables. So you can see kind of how the different note values, the rhubarb, the long whole note, 2 carrots make a whole note. It's just really fun to bring music to life. And of course your grand staff, you also have some other note values and time signatures there at the bottom. So it's a really, really functional, great educational piece. The circle of fifths is super, super handy as well if you're playing music. So really, really great functional, educational, and beautiful piece that will be coming July 6th. So very, very excited about that. Yay. All right, so mark your calendars for June 6th for a few fun new little things and some restocks, and then we'll all be waiting for that August restock of mugs. All right, so who is ready for some Wondergarten trivia? To recap, we do 3 trivia questions, and if you are the first one to answer, it'll be a little $5 gift card from the store. All right, so we're going to start with one that's July themed. So I can't show it to you right now, but if you've been paying attention in community, what song, so the answer to this will be a song title from our Songs of Summer album. What song is depicted in the new July chalkboard? Let's see who gets it. What song is depicted? No, not that. What song is depicted in the new July chalkboard? Keep guessing. Warm Summer Night. There it is. Serena got it. Warm Summer Night. That is correct. Congrats, Selena. We'll follow up with you for your $5 gift card. That is Warm Summer Night. And of course, as you get into July, and I'll kind of give you a preview of the story today, which will be so fun, you'll kind of see really where that scene comes from. It's a really, really great one. All right, next question. This is a spring question. The next two are going to be spring. This is kind of a fun one. Now that this week would technically be gardening week, so we're going to kind of think back to planting week. In planting week, what did Morrison knock over in planting week back in spring? Very close, very close. Close. Yes, but what were they on? A table. Sarah got table first. So all of your seeds are slightly right. But it was the table that was holding the seeds. So I'm going to give that to Sarah because it was the table full of seeds. Yes. Because the table, what was in the middle of the walkway, and Rudebug, of course, felt bad for putting a table in the middle of the walkway because Morrison, of course, can't see very well. So congrats, Sarah. But gold star for everyone who said seeds because that is also part of what got knocked over. And the last question, this is going to be a challenge. In the flower festival, what flower did Puddle Bloom wear on his head as his flower cap? Let's see if anyone gets this. Bluebell. That was quick. Good job. Iabel got it. First out of the gate, Bluebell. Yes. Congratulations, Iabel. You got it. Congratulations. So fun. These are always so fun. I love just seeing how much you guys know these stories, and it's so fun. I know whenever we test these questions with our kids, they are just sharp. They know these so well. They know them in and out. So congrats. It's always a lot of fun. Yes, Flower Festival is an incredible episode on repeat many times in this house as well. So thank you all for participating. So fun. You'll all get another chance next live stream next month for our August overview, which, can you believe that our next live stream is going to be the last live stream of all of these months of curriculum? I cannot even believe it. All right. Well, let's get to it, into July. Who is excited for July? I'm excited for July. All right, so July is kind of that midsummer month where June, you're kind of still getting into your summer rhythms, and July is my favorite month of summer. Not just because it's my birthday month, but because it's just that middle of summer. August I say that August is one giant Sunday. It's just like the month before everything starts. It's the month before school, kind of like the day before school. So July is when it's in the middle, it's warm, it's nice, and it's a lovely month. So let's go over July. As I can't show you the chalkboard here, but go back in community or look on our site to see the beautiful July chalkboard. And I'll mention it as we talk about our stories this week. I have a question about Eliza Hummingbird puppet restock. We do not have ETA on any puppet restocks at the moment. So no ETA on that. Hopefully those do also take a while. So at this point, hopefully maybe by Black Friday, but no promises. But we'll work on that, and I'll let you know if we have any news for that. All right, so July, we have Camping Week, Veggie Week, Swim Week, and Fruit Festival. And I'm actually going to pause because I saw something here, and I'm going to retract a little bit. Also in our July 6th little restock and launch, someone mentioned the July print. We are going to be kind of doing a relaunch of art prints with some new sizes, some new prices, some new things there, and they're going to be really beautiful. So if you've been looking to buy those art prints, we're going to be doing a little bit of an art relaunch on that July 6th date as well. Sorry, I didn't mention that before. That was not in my notes, but thank you for mentioning it. Yes, so July. So look out for. At that point, the August chalkboard will already also be done. Nathaniel's finishing up with that this week, actually, and so then we'll get that all ready and formatted to get to prints. So you'll be able to buy we'll have a chalkboard for every month, guys, finally. The collection will be complete. So if you want to get a print for art, those will be relaunching a little bit on July 6th as well, along with those other things. So yay. All right. Now back to July. Let's go over our month. We have Camping Week, Veggie Week, Swim Week, and Fruit Festival. 4 really, really fun weeks here, and I can't wait to get into it. Okay, so supplies, here's your supply list. Of course, if you get a kit, you'll have everything you need. And we're going to start with camping week. We intentionally put camping week around the first week of July because we know many families go camping around the 4th of July. So we thought this would be good timing for many families if you're going out camping this week. There's also hiking themes in this story and just a lot of really fun things. Now, of course, you don't have to go camping to enjoy this week. You'll see all the pictures in this week are from my backyard. So we were able to absolutely do these things at home. So you can take this with you on camping or you can do this at home and it's equally fun. So let's get into it. So camping week, we have our story is the oak tree. Now this is actually a really cool story and a really special story. So we open up and they're all, the gnomes and friends are all having some pancakes and they're asking Hamilton, all right, Hamilton, where did you live before you found Wondergarten? Like, where are you from? Of course, he's been living in Wondergarten since September. And so he shares that he, used to live in this oak tree kind of just beyond the garden. And then this idea comes of, can you show us where that is? Do you remember the way? And of course, they're all really excited to go see, and they all want to go see. And Hamilton's like, I think I could remember the way. Let's go. And so everyone says, let's go, show us the way. And then you get the song, Show Us the Way. So if you really listen to that song, Show Us the Way, that is all the gnomes and fairies and friends singing to Hamilton, show us the way. Let's go out a little bit beyond the garden on this hike to the view of the mountain, over the river, and find this beautiful spot. And I love that song. And if you are in the PNW, we kind of wrote this as like a PNW anthem. Like the mountain is out, let's go over the river, across the valley, where the mountain is high in the sky. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song. The harmonies in that one is just stunning. So that is where this song comes from, is everyone is asking Hamilton to show them the way to his old home before he found Wondergarten. So it's a really, really cool moment. And that's where you get these kind of hiking vibes. So this is definitely, even if you don't go camping this week, this is also a great week to incorporate some hiking and adventuring. And that song, it definitely captures that. And so then they get to this oak tree, but then there's this kind of moment that Hamilton has where he's now with his really close friends, just, coming from Wondergarten, that's become his home. And he comes to this oak tree that used to be where he lived alone. And there's this moment for him that's kind of like seeing this old part of his life. And there wasn't tables or chairs like there are in Wondergarten. There wasn't art on the walls. There wasn't tea. It was just a little oak tree with a few nuts. And the mood kind of changes. And then he looks to his friends, and then he sings the most beautiful song, A House is Not a Home, the People Are. And that's where you get the song, Love Makes a Home. And he realizes that this place that he used to live and used to be the only home he knew is no longer a home for him. And coming back to it doesn't feel like coming home. It just feels like this old shell of his old life. And then he turns to his friends and realizes that those people are his home, and that is his family, and that is what makes home a home. And so that beautiful song, those lyrics really are just so touching. Of it is really the people in your life that make home feel like home. It is a really sweet moment. And so it's just this moment of, his kind of pre-Wondergarten life and now the friends he's made, and just realizing how he's felt so much more at home with his friends at Wondergarten. So it is a very, very sweet moment. And then at the end of the night, they're camping out around the oak tree, and it gets late into the night. And Hamilton, we don't get to, it's kind of special when Hamilton sings. Of course, the gnomes have been singing all their lives. That's just their life at Wondergarten. So, but whenever Hamilton really sings, it's a really special moment. So he sings that song, and then later they're around the fire. Sister Flame makes a nice bonfire. Rudebug's plucking it on his guitar. And Thumbkin is playing his harmonica, and then Hamilton kind of starts singing this really soulful campfire song. And that is Warm Summer Night. And so that's what we see. And the chalkboard depicts the whole scene of Warm Summer Night. But if you look at the details, once you really get to see that, it's actually a little bit after that song where the fairies have gone to bed, Morrison's asleep, and then, Hamilton's trying his hand at the harmonica. And it's just that late night around the fire with your closest friends, with your family, soulfully singing that this is just where I want to be. And this is a really sweet song, is very much inspired by moments in my own life. My family has a cabin near the mountain, near Mount Rainier, and I grew up always going there, and those late nights around the campfire are what really inspired this song, because they're so special. So many conversations, and just the glue of my whole extended family is really around that campfire at our family cabin. And so that is what, Nathaniel really got to come into our family and see that, and see how that campfire, there's just something special. So that's what that song is inspired by. Really, really special, both history in real life and in this moment in the story. So really cool story here of the oak tree. Some really cool songs, really inspiring songs, and just a lot of sweet things going on. So with all of that, then we get to go into some fun activities, right? Okay, so for our day one, instead of our usual kind of molding, we're gonna make these sweet little craft campfires with wool roving. These are pretty simple to make, but they are really sweet. You see little Sophie here roasting a little wool marshmallow over a little wool fire. It's very, very sweet. This is going to be a great prop. You could even do this on a micro scale if you want to make like a little story prop, but you can make it big enough if you want your kids to play with it as well. So really all you need is sheets of wool roving in different colors, fiery colors, warm colors, and a few sticks. And then what you're going to do, and we have our top-down view here, you're going to arrange your sticks kind of like this, and then you're just really going to use these these long kind of strands of wool roving, and just pull them up and just tie them around, and use the wool itself to tie those sticks in place, and then layer. And you can see I'm just tying simple knots around and coming up around different parts of the sticks, and then you just get this really sweet, simple campfire. Let the wool do the work for you. You can fluff it up if you want. It is a really, really simple handcraft that children can absolutely mostly do themselves. I'd say this part, when you're kind of getting the sticks to arrange, you might kind of need to weave the wool a little bit to secure those. But then after that, the kids can absolutely just pull that wool around those sticks and bring it right up and tie that around. And it's just a really sweet little wool campfire. And then of course, if you want to make a little marshmallow, take some beige or white and just tie it, and then just wrap it right around. You can tuck in the ends, and it's just a really sweet little craft campfire that your children can enjoy. So make a little craft campfire. Again, the idea is if you don't have to go camping or light a fire, if you can't, but you can still enjoy. And then this one is super fun. Living Arts Day 1 main lesson, fort making. Now this can be anything. The prompt is just make forts. So here we have my boys making this amazing stick tent in the backyard, of course, with Nathaniel's help. But this could be a silk fort, a nugget fort, a blanket fort, a tree fort, anything you want. Make some sort of tent, or if you have a real tent, pop up your tent in your backyard, or if you're actually camping, have the children help you make a tent. Anything works, anything goes, but just have the kids get involved in making a little fort shelter. Kids love making forts, and this is a great time to encourage that. And then for our day 2, our morning activity is going to be making some trail mix. This is one of those activities that is very simple, but it's always surprisingly satisfying for little kids. Amanda says you might camp in the backyard. That's what we're going to do this year too. We are going to be going camping, but at some point in the summer. But backyard camping is so much fun. So if you have even just a little lawn, backyard camping can be so much fun. So for our trail mix activity, as you see here in this little photo here, I love to just get little bowls of everything your family's going to want in trail mix. This is completely up to you. We did some assorted nuts, yogurt-covered raisins. This can be anything, of course, take into account any dietary needs your family has, but each thing in just a little bowl, and then get some little wooden scoops and let your children just make their own little mix. They can stir it up. You could put it in a bag. They could shake it, make their little trail mix that you can take hiking, you could take camping, all of that. Now, our baking lesson for camping week is going to be camp food. Now, this is another one of those options that you have lots of options here, and you can use what you have, use what you want to do. If you want to get some extra tools to do something you've never done before, this is fun. So you can either do roasting stick camp food, which means hot dogs or marshmallows, make s'mores over the campfire. Or if you want, you can do a pie iron, which I have instruction here for pie iron pies. You could do pie iron pizzas, are really fun as well. And if you can't even make a fire, you can also do oven s'mores as well. And I have some instructions on oven s'mores. So no matter what you have access to, if you have a campfire, no campfire, if you have a stick, if you have a pie iron, you can still enjoy this activity. So some simple instructions. If you are going to do marshmallows or hot dogs, you can put those on a stick, or really anything you want to roast over a stick over an open fire, you can do that. Of course, part of this activity and part of this lesson, if you have an open fire, is a great time to actually start to talk to our kids about campfire safety and how to manage their little bodies around fires to make sure that no one gets hurt. And it's a really great time to just slowly, just carefully have them roast over a fire. So I have some open s'mores instructions. Of course, that's pretty simple. Roast a marshmallow. But if you want to get a pie iron, I have instructions. I was in Campfire Girls when I was little, and so we grew up doing pie iron pies and pizzas, and it was so fun. So I wanted to add these. So if you get a pie iron, it's those kind of things that clamp together and you stick in the fire. You take some bread. It can be any bread you want. It can be store-bought bread. It can be buttermilk sandwich bread from Picnic Week. And you butter one side, and you put the buttered side down into the pan, and then you fill it with really whatever you want. It can be pre-made pie filling. It can be homemade pie filling. It can be pizza sauce and cheese. It can be jam. It can be peanut butter and jelly, anything really. And then you clamp it together and you stick it in the fire, and then it's going to toast and get warm and really nice and gooey. Now, of course, careful when you take it out, but then you kind of have this really, really yummy. Oh yeah, you can also upgrade this from bread to crescent roll dough, and it is quite scrumptious. So if you want to do crescent roll dough and jam, or you could even smash a cinnamon roll in these things. You can have a lot of fun making a lot of yummy things in a pie iron. So if you do want to get a hold of one. Now, the pie irons won't be coming in the July kit because they're about like this long. They're really big. So if you do get a July kit, you'll get a roasting stick. So you'll get a little marshmallow stick in your July kit. But if you do want to get a pie iron, there's some on Amazon. You might be able to find one at a local like camp store. But they are really fun. I would suggest if you can get a hold of one. Now, I know some of you live in areas that have burn bans during the summer. So if you can't actually cook over a fire, I do have some oven s'mores instructions on page 266 here. It's really just put your marshmallow in the oven and watch it, because it goes quick. So just a few minutes to broil and it'll toast up, and then you can make some oven s'mores. So enjoy with whatever you have. But if you can cook over an open fire, it's very, very fun. All right. Now all of your recipe adaptations are together after camp food. So for your trail mix, there's some ideas, some roasting ideas here. All of that's on one page. Then for day 3, this is especially fun to do before if you're going to do any hiking or if you're going out camping, because then they can take it with them. We're going to make these really fun nature hunt cards. We're going to be doing a rainbow nature hunt. So painting day morning, we're going to be making the nature hunt cards. And so you can see here a little example. You can mask off different areas and just paint different colors. You can use acrylic paint, you can use watercolor, you can use anything. You can even use crayons if you just want your kids to just color different color squares. And it doesn't even have to be masked off. It's just making spots on, I would suggest using watercolor paper so it's kind of thicker for them to hold, making spots for them for just different colors. And then if you get a little bit of hot glue and kind of a little mini, thing, or if you want to skip the hot glue, you could just put a paper clip, just something to attach to the paper so that when they go out and find things, there's somewhere for them to put that on that color. So you can see here, there's lots of different colors. And then for your day 3 main lesson, it is scavenger hunt time. So then the idea is they're going out into nature and finding things that match this color. So can they find something red or orange or green, and seeing what they notice. And then they come back with these beautifully filled little nature hunt cards. And they're really, really fun. It's a really fun activity, really fun way to get them out in nature and enjoying and really noticing the nature around them. So, and again, this can look any way you want. This is just more of a prompt. A lot of these summer activities are kind of take this idea, run with it, use what you got, have fun with your kids, right? All right, any questions on camping week before I go on? I'm gonna take a little sip of water here. No? Adjust my straps here. All right, we're gonna move on to Veggie Week, okay? So Veggie Week and Swim Week are in the middle of July, and these are the two that are kind of a little bit of a pair as far as story continuity. So if you do, I mentioned this back in our summer planning, but just a little reminder that if you do want to shuffle these, you should know about Veggie Week before you do Swim Week, because otherwise you'll open up Swim Week and have no idea where you are. Question, how easy to do with a 2.5-year-old? What activity are you asking? Are you asking about the nature hunt or the campfire cooking? Because those are the nature hunt. Nature hunt, I would probably do more of the nature hunt card prep, probably yourself. I think they could easily do some coloring or a little bit of painting. And then that's something that is really fun to go and do with them. Get down on their level, go along and start to point out colors. It's a great way to introduce some vocabulary, red, flower, all of those things. So I think it's absolutely something that a 2.5-year-old could do and will definitely more involve you as the parent, which I love because then you're doing it with them, you're connecting with them and going along and finding those things yourself. So I would definitely say if you have little ones, be prepared to do it with them and point things out, kind of show them and help them clip that little thing, but it should still be a lot of fun even with little ones. And someone just in general for continuity, do you always mention this in the curriculum books just in case we forgot from the videos? Am I understanding that question? Do you always mention, for the continuity? I don't, the continuity isn't necessarily laid out ahead of time in the curriculum books itself. We do have summaries throughout the book, but it's really in these videos that I do kind of give you heads up on continuity. So mostly in the planning videos are where you're gonna find me really giving the overviews of continuity. All right, okay, I'm gonna move on to Veggie Week. This is a really fun week. Probably has one of everyone's favorite summer songs, Can. All right. Okay, Veggie Week, lots of fun. We have a lot of fun, creative things happening in Veggie Week, as you see here already with our veggie boat. It's a really fun story, really fun songs, really fun activities. So the story this week is The Black Beauty, which if you are a gardener, a Black Beauty is a variety of zucchini, which comes into play in our story here. So the story guide here, you have all of your ways to adapt your story, your main characters, all of that. So our story is, they're beginning to do some harvesting in the garden. And I think Hamilton, they were down in the root cellar. Let's see. Yes, and the gnomes, they were starting to prepare their food, and Hamilton was asking about how they keep their food from spoiling. So Rudebug takes Hamilton down to the root cellar and talks about canning. And then Hamilton sees all of their canned foods. And then he asks, what can you can? And then, of course, Rudebug and Thumbkin cue canning can tell Hamilton that you can just about anything. And if it fits inside a can, you can it. And so then they go into the can song, which is so fun. Pickles and tomato sauce, cabbage to sauerkraut. Yes, you can. And so funny, just kind of musical moment there of can. And so it's a great time to talk to your children about food preservation, how things were done before refrigerators and what a root cellar is and how things are canned. And of course, I'm sure there's good handfuls of you who are very much into canning and do canning. And so if you are one of those families that do canning already, this is a great way to kind of align your normal canning plans to this week if you can. And if not, we have some really easy canning things that don't require like a pressure canner. So we have the can song. Hamilton learns about canning and food preservation. And then Petty Pom says, come quick, you have to see this. And he takes him to the garden. Now, if you've ever grown zucchinis in your garden, you know that if you forget about them for too long, sometimes you get these massive zucchinis. And when they get massive, what do you do with this massive zucchini? They're not as pleasant texture to eat. They're really seedy. They're kind of spongy. They're kind of big. And so then you just have this giant, massive zucchini. So they find this giant, massive zucchini and Rudebug's, oh no, how did I miss this? And then Petty Pom is on top of it and crack out, the stem breaks and it rolls down into the pond. Petty Pom's okay. And then they realize it floats. And then Rudebug gets an idea to make a veggie boat. So he's gonna make a zucchini boat out of that zucchini. So he goes, he starts hacking, he hoists a cabbage sail, and they make a zucchini boat, and cue Set Sail With Me. That is our sea shanty song from Rudebug. It is really fun. And what I love about this is that it gives sea shanty vibes, it gives sailing vibes without pirates. right? So it's still wholesome, and there's no stealing or pillaging. It's just gnomes on a zucchini boat, but it still gives those fun sailing vibes. So I think it's so much fun. So set sail with me, and zucchini can grow. So if you are growing zucchini in your backyard, maybe choose one to let get really big for this week so you can make a giant zucchini boat. It's really fun. So really, really fun. And then they're sailing away in the pond. And yes, I think they do really float. There is a picture in here of Nathaniel. Actually, he made the zucchini boat and actually took it to our actual pond with our little gnome dolls and put it in the pond with the gnomes on top. It needed a little bit of like balancing, but it floats. So songs this week, Can You Can It, Set Sail with Me. So morning activity, garden harvesting. We did something similar back, of course, for gardening week. Nathaniel, he was propped up. Okay, he confirmed that the zucchini boat was propped. So garden harvesting is our activity this week. If you have a garden, have those children go out, grab a zucchini if you can, harvest whatever you can. And if you don't, I have that same kind of alternate activity. If you can't go out and find a community garden, if you don't have a garden, you can do just foster some gardening play or farmer's market play. You could also go to a farmer's market to pick out some zucchinis. If you want to just kind of encourage the harvesting farmer's market idea, you could do a little farmer's market play inside if you need to stay inside. So lots of ideas there. Of course, if you can get kids out in the garden harvesting, that is ideal. And some fun activity in the chat about Nathaniel and engineering zucchini boats. So if anyone does make theirs float, congrats. All right, so grab your zucchinis for day one, and then we're gonna do some pickling and canning, because of course we have to do some canning while we sing the Can song. So we are gonna, I have two options here, two very simple options. You don't need to actually do pressure canning or even water bath canning. So you can choose or both to do, I have fridge pickles and sauerkraut. Both are very, very simple. Nathaniel said these both turned out great. I personally despise pickles and sauerkraut, so I can't vouch, but other people said that they turned out really well. So fridge pickles, really simple. You're just gonna chop up some cucumbers. You have kind of a salt brine, of course, and fill those up. And then sauerkraut is really simple. It's just cabbage and salt, and you just mash it in there. So I have instructions for both fridge pickles and sauerkraut, and then you just keep them. Fridge pickles, keep in the fridge. They do their thing, and both are really fun. And then, of course, if you are a canner, you can also swap this activity with any more advanced canning activities you might want to do with your kids. So choose your canning, right? Then for baking day, our morning activity, you will need multiple zucchinis for canning for veggie week, okay? You're gonna need a zucchini for your veggie boat and a zucchini for your zucchini bread, okay? So just a little note, you're gonna need multiple zucchinis, one like normal size zucchini for your bread, and then if you have a larger one, you can save that for the boat, okay? So morning activity, we're going to be shredding zucchini. So that's all we're doing with the kids. Good shredding practice, of course, help those little fingers stay out of the way. It's really good kitchen practice to just slow down and help them to shred carefully and point out those safety tips. But really good activity, good strength activity for them, for those little muscles. They tend to have a lot of fun with it. So morning activity is shredding zucchini in preparation for our baking activity later that day. And then our baking activity is zucchini bread. Now this recipe is a recipe that I grew up with. It is my family's absolutely delicious zucchini bread. It is so good. It could arguably be called a zucchini cake because there is a ton of sugar. So this is definitely a treat bread. But I wanted to keep it in because it is just the best zucchini bread ever. It is so good. We do, of course, have refined sugar-free options after this. And I think last year in the summer test group, someone just did less sugar, and that also worked. So choose your sugar content, but if you want it absolutely scrumptious, you can use the recipe as it is. But it's so good, I promise. So adapt if you need, but make the zucchini bread. The tip here, you really do need to beat the zucchini. Like once it's all mixed, you want to really beat it. So if you are doing it in a stand mixer, beat it on medium for like 3 minutes. Or if you're doing it by hand with your kids, it's time for those mussels. Let's like really go, because it releases the moisture from the zucchini to make the batter the right thickness. Because once you start mixing everything together, it'll kind of be still a thick batter. You still want it to be pourable, but you need to like beat the moisture out of that zucchini. So if you're doing it by hand, might be a little bit of a workout. And yes, you could add absolutely anything, add nuts, add chocolate, add anything you want, but it is so yummy. I love that someone's already tried it and it was a hit. Also a note for like portion. In here, in the photo I have, I did it in one loaf, and it was a big loaf and it baked for quite a while. So again, watch the bread, not the timer, like use the timer as a guide, but trust the poke. If it's not done, keep it in. You can also distribute this recipe into 2 loaves for 2 smaller, slightly quicker cooking loaves if you want. Either way, it depends on how tall you want your loaf, but this one was a pretty nice and tall loaf. It baked for a long time. And so if you want to use a standard loaf pan, it will fit, it'll just be tall, or you could split it up for 2 kind of smaller ones. Your choice, but just know that if you do it in one pan, it might feel like it takes forever. That's normal, but just wait until that poke comes out clean. Trust the bread, okay? So, but it's delicious, I promise. Okay, then our day 3, morning activities, super simple. We're gonna break out the sidewalk chalk again, do some gross motor drawing, summertime style. And then day 3, our main lesson, here we have it, zucchini boats. Oh, this of course was Nathaniel's idea. He really wanted this to happen and he made it happen. And it's really fun. So we have some guidelines on how to construct your veggie boat. But of course, this is also just a really fun building activity. Your children can go crazy with however they want it to look. Kind of like our pumpkin houses back in autumn. A fun like construction creative activity. So have your zucchini and you can kind of hollow out a little bit. You can use asparagus, some carrots as the bow, have some cabbage or lettuce on hands, and toothpicks. Cherry tomatoes are great too. So I'll kind of walk you through these steps so you have it. Here in step 2, you see a little carrot bow being secured in place by a toothpick. And Nathaniel lined the 2 edges of the zucchini with asparagus, and you pluck them, you poke the little toothpicks in, and then you can trim the tops off carefully if you want. And so then you can kind of see how that looks. And then for the mast, just stick that little toothpick right in the middle and then put that nice little celery stalk right in the middle. And then you can see here how you can use the toothpick to secure some cabbage leaves. I think this will be easier to look at your actual real book. So look at these and just kind of see. They also topped any of the exposed toothpicks with cherry tomatoes that were really cute. If you want to get fancy, you can add multiple sails. You can add strings to hold the sails up. They're really, really fun. And then of course later, if you want to save, there's actually some zucchini boat recipes, like dinner recipes. You can fill a zucchini with pasta or something. There's recipes. If you go on Pinterest and look zucchini boats, you'll get dinner recipes and not zucchini ships. So you can use your zucchini boats to make zucchini boats if you want to later. So have fun with this one. It's a blast. And then, enjoy. So, all right. Any questions for Veggie Week before we head to Swim Week? We're already at 11:45, so I'm sure with the hot air balloon coming later, we're going to go over our hour time because I'm a yapper, sorry. Okay, Swim Week, let's dive into it. Let's waste no time. Okay, Swim Week, super fun. Obviously, swimming is just a part of what we picture for summertime, right? So if you can go actually swimming to a pool or anything, please do if you are able to. But again, if you can't, you can enjoy this week at home, and it should be lots of fun. So our story opens up on the Black Beauty, on the ship. And so that's why I mentioned that if you dive right into swimming day, you'll probably be confused of where are we? But they are on the ship with Captain Rudebug and First Mate Morrison, who are snoring in their hammocks. And it's just a really funny, I can't wait for the audiobook for this one because it's a really just funny, lovely way to start this week. And then it's time to go swimming. And Thumbkin and Petty Palm, they're ready to swim. But our furry friends, Rudebug with his big beard and Morrison and Hamilton, they don't love swimming. You know, they'll reluctantly take a bath, but they don't love swimming because of all the fur. And Thumbkin's like, come on, being in the water is like the best part of summer. And they're like, no. And so Thumbkin goes to dive in, Petty Palm goes to dive in, and then the other friends lower themselves down on a little potato raft, which is really cute. So they're out on the water on their little potato raft. And then they're all, Petty Palm, of course, is jumping, swimming, splashing. And then you get the song, Swimming All Day, where they're saying, come on and jump in the water with me. I love that song. The vibes are just really fun. And that's where we get our swimming song. And then Petty Palm dives in, and then he loses his hat in the water. And here we have on the second page of our story, you see the zucchini boat actually on our pond. You're right, it is propped on a little log, but there's Petty Palm on the boat. And so Petty Palm loses his hat and then goes diving in. He tries to fish it out. So he casts a little line, tries to fish it out. So you see Petty Palm fishing for a second, but he doesn't get it. And so he dives in the water. And then while he's under the water, he hears singing. And that's where we get the song Under the Water. And this is just like, you feel like you're under the water, just in the currents with the light sparkling. Now, some of you might know this, but fun fact about Under the Water, this song was originally written for my birth of my fourth child. This was my labor song. Nathaniel, before he put words to it and before he really kind of solidified the melody, it was just this loose song that he would play as I was in labor. Like I was sitting behind him on the birth ball while he was at the piano and he was playing the song as I was going through my labor with my fourth child. And then after that, he adapted it with some lyrics and made it to this song. But the rhythm there, this was originally the song he played while I was in labor with our last child. So little fun fact there. But you'll see the waves and just like, it was the perfect birth song. But it's just a really lovely song. It definitely puts you there. So yes, fun fact. Very sweet. So really cool song though. And then he comes out of the water and then there's a really fun kind of finish to this story there that I won't spoil. That's just kind of a fun little Wondergarten lore. So then Petty Palm finds his hat and then they all enjoy fun facts turning into trivia questions. Yes. Yes, really fun. All right, so let's dive into activities. Obviously this week, swimming all day, under the water are your songs. Morning activity, water play. This can be anything. Go to a pool, fill up a little basin with water, bring out the splash pad, slip and slide, sprinklers on, anything you want. Get those kids wet in the water, having fun in the summer sun, splashing. All right, so this is whatever you have, whatever you can do. Water. Then for our main lesson, we're going to be making fishing rods because of course Petty Palm had to try to fish for his hat. This is super simple. Grab a stick, grab some twine, and I do have this little like hook magnet. This is one thing that you might want to find specifically. Any little magnet that you can tie onto something will do. It doesn't have to be specifically this, but this was handy to tie. So tie on a string as you see here, and at the end tie a little magnet. And then when I was growing up, my mom would always do this. There was this little, she would hang a little sheet and I would put a little magnet, fishing rod, and then she would like stick little magnet fish up for us to pull up. So play some fishing games if you can. They can fish for really anything magnetic and it's really, really fun. So it sounds like a little 6-year-old has been wanting to go fish with dad. So this is a great little way for children to just get to pretend fish with the family. So really fun. Again, it can be get any little magnet things. I think you could even fish for a spoon if you need to. But enjoy that. And then for day 2, our morning activity, we're going to be making silk diving toys. Now this is, again, simple, fun. All you really need is a rock and a silk. A mini play silk works great for the size. You really just gather a silk around a rock. You can either tie it with the silk or you see here I tied it with a little string and just tie it. And silks are great in the water. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, that play silks work so well in the water. They are such great water toys. And so then you can just toss these into a pool and they like float like seaweed. They're really, really beautiful with the weight at the bottom. So if your children are like swimmers who can like swim down in the water, they can go and fetch these, or they kind of just make fun little watery decoration, especially have like green ones, could be fun. So make some silk diving toys. No, if you wash them out, they actually do just fine. So of course we wouldn't want them sitting in the chlorine for a little ton of time, but I think they would just do just fine for a while. So I've never had a problem. But of course, fresh water is always, or salt water is great if you can. But I would say still take them to the pool and you'll have a lot of fun. They're really, really great in the pool. So, or in the bathtub. If you can't get to a pool, bathtub, great bath toy as well. So any water. Have fun with that. For our baking for swim week, we're not going to be doing baking. We're going to be making something yummy because it's summertime and you don't always want to have your oven on, right? So we're making watermelon popsicles. These are so simple, so easy, yummy, and fun. You just need a popsicle mold, and then it's just 2 ingredients. So your children can scoop out some watermelon, mash it up, and just add a little bit of honey. That's it. And if you don't want to do honey, you could do agave or maple syrup, any sweetener you like, really. Mash that up. You could also blend it if you want, but my kids just did it by hand and it was really simple and easy. Then pour those into popsicle molds and freeze them, and they're really lovely. They're still kind of an icy texture, but they're really refreshing and we really enjoyed them. So a little tip for getting them out of the molds, run that under some hot water for just a few seconds before you try to pull those out, but then they should come out just fine. So really, really easy, fun, healthy, yummy way to do some popsicles for summertime. Then day 3, really nice, easy painting day, art day this week. Sidewalk chalk again, enjoy some drawing outside. And then we are gonna do wet on wet watercolor paint outside. So what I would love to see kids dunking their watercolor papers in the pool. Or like if you have a kiddie pool outside, I wouldn't suggest chlorine for this. But get the paper wet, be outside, just let them be wet and watery, and it's wet on wet, so they can just be out there and just enjoy wet on wet watercolor in just a more of a free way instead of like at the table. Let them get wet, let them enjoy getting their paper wet, getting the paint all over wherever. So have them outside in the grass and it should be really fun. Just kind of watery, free, summertime, wet on wet watercolor, right? Okay, Fruit Festival, last week of July. What I'm going to do for this one is I'm just going to do kind of a quick overview of the whole week, just kind of as far as where things are, and then I'm going to go back and do the in-depth step-by-step of the hot air balloon, because that's kind of the main thing and it's all spread out throughout the week. But I want you to just kind of get a sense of the week first, and then I'll come back and do our step-by-step hot air balloon tutorial. All right, so Fruit Festival week, as I mentioned in summer planning, this is Petty Palm's birthday because his plums are ripe, and the actual plum tree that he lives in our backyard with his little door, the plums are ripe at the end of July. It's also my birthday. So my birthday is, Petty Palm's birthday is inspired by my birthday. Nice midsummer birthday. So it's Petty Palm's birthday. It's a lot of fun. And we have a party and a hot air balloon, and it's really, I probably say it's a lot of fun way too many times in these live streams. Okay, so birthday balloon. It's Petty Palm's birthday. Eliza comes in and they're super excited. Fruit is finally ripe. Petty Palm's is so excited. He's the happiest snowman in the garden. He jumps on Eliza's back and is flying around the garden, and then comes Fruit on the Vine, our little fruit conga line. It's so fun. And he's like, come on, fairies are ripening the fruit and it's a party time. It's his birthday. Fruit is ripe. Woohoo. And it's just, if you know that song, it's really fun. So then they come and they're doing a big garden party under the willow tree at Puddle Bloom's house. I just think it'd be so fun to recreate this kind of summer garden party outside when the fruit is ripe. Fun. Then they sing happy birthday, and then it's time for his wish. And this is really sweet because he says that every year he has wished that he could fly. But now, because of his dear friend Eliza, that wish has already come true. He gets to ride on her back and see the garden from the sky all the time. But today for his birthday, he wishes that all of his friends could join him up there in the sky, because of course Rudebug and Pumpkin and Morrison do not get that view. And so that was his birthday wish, is that his friends could see the garden from the sky and join him up there. So it's a really, really sweet little wish. And then Amethyst, she's kind of like our our engineer, our thinker, she had noticed that if you put something over Sister Flame, it'll rise. And so they have an idea to make a birthday balloon, a big hot air balloon, and then they say, let's do it. So this story is a little longer. It's a 2-page, so just kind of as you prep for your storytelling, it is a bit longer. Then they get to work creating a hot air balloon, and then we get the song Dreams Come True. This song is so inspiring, and it's about how if you think outside the box, you can really make anything happen. And that is what they're doing. Amethyst is thinking outside the box. They're all thinking outside the box. How could we get everyone into the sky for Penny Pom's birthday? And so they begin creating and teamwork, and it's this incredible feat, and they create this big birthday balloon. So it's a really cool scene of them all working together. And there's a moment where Eliza says, just look at what your friends are doing for you, and it's really, really sweet. Then they all get in the basket and they go up into the sky, and they get to see, they get to overlook the garden, and it's a really special moment for all of them. And then it's evening, it's really sweet, and then comes Fairy Works. So then Sister Flame and the fairies work together to like shoot their little fairy dust into the sky to make their version of fireworks, Fairy Works. So they use their little fairy pixie dust, and Sister Flame, like, you know, tosses her little flame thing. So then they get a show, a fireworks show at the end of this story. So if you do want to incorporate some of this fireworks themes for 4th of July or anything else in July, we did want fireworks somewhere in July because July is just fireworks month. So we do have that here at the end. And so then all of the gnomes and friends get to see this fireworks show, Fairy Works, in the sky. And then also really sweet, especially as we just came off of picnic week, Morrison does get to see these little sparkles. So even though he's blind, a lot of people who are legally blind still can see a little bit of especially light sensitivity. So he sees these fireworks. And so it's a really special moment that he even gets to be included up there in the sky along the dark night and seeing these flashes of light, and he gets to enjoy it with them. And it's just a really, really sweet moment. And they're all together watching this fairy work show in the night, looking over the garden. And then we have the song Sparkling Lights. And that's that fireworks song, a very sentimental song of just them all being together, enjoying this memory, as they all just worked so hard to make Penny Pom's wish come true. And they did. And it's really beautiful. Here, cue the tears again. Sorry, Janine. It's really sweet. So I know the song had you bawling when you first heard it. Catherine also had to do so many takes of this song because she was also crying. She was just sobbing through the song because especially just let wonder fill your eyes. And just as parents, of course, so much of this is instilling the sense of wonder in our children and having these sweet moments next to them and enjoying these things together. And so this is definitely one that will get you. Everyone's crying again. I'm sorry, guys. But it's really sweet. So yeah, it's a really, really sweet song. It's another tearjerker and very relatable as we like, especially this year, if we all go like watch fireworks with our kids, we're all just going to be like sobbing thinking of this song. So that's how that story ends. Penny Pom gets his birthday wish, and they all watch Fairy Works over the garden in the night. Very, very lovely. All right, let's head to some activities, and then we will get to that tutorial there. Living Arts Day 1, morning activity, break out the bubbles again, enjoy a morning of bubbles that you should hopefully still have on hand. I wanted to make sure we did bubbles at least once a month through the summer. So that's your morning activity. And then begins our multi-step, multi-day process of our hot air balloon. So I'm gonna bring this over and you'll see, this is slightly deconstructed because I'm gonna show you a few, I'm gonna put it together again. So this is our hot air balloon that we are making for Penny Pom's birthday, and it's a kite paper hot air balloon. And so I'll show you in a little bit, step-by-step details. So for our first part of this is the kite paper mache. So we're using kite paper to paper mache around a balloon. This was absolutely one of those moments of, hey honey, what if we made a kite paper hot air balloon. And one of these ideas I had in my head of what if we used colored paper to do the paper mache, and it worked, because usually with paper mache you're using newspaper strips, and then after it's dry you're painting it. But with this you're actually using kite paper, which is that translucent colored paper, and it maintains its color. And at night when you have a little light in here, it does still glow because it has that translucency. So it's really, really a cool thing that you can use as a night light. And it actually turned out really well. So day one, your main lesson will be the paper mache portion of this project. And then the next, then I have instructions for the paper mache. You'll start with, of course, cutting or ripping the paper mache pieces of the kite paper, and then doing the paper mache. The next day for your morning activity is assembling the balloon. So I'll go through all those details and give you all of what you know. We have all of these steps here, but of course these involved things sometimes are tricky to follow with just pictures. It's so hard to how do I get this picture so you really know what's going on? So I will go through one by one these steps in just a little bit, but just so you're kind of mentally, day one main lesson, you're doing the paper mache portion. Day two morning activity, you're actually putting it together, all right? Then we'll move on to baking day. We're gonna make a plum cake for Petty Pom's birthday. Of course, if you can get a hold of golden plums, even better, but of course I know these are a little harder to find. So we had a bountiful harvest last year of our plum tree, so we got to use our Petty Pom's actual glowing, just glowing golden plums. They're so beautiful. But any plum will work. Honestly, any stone fruit will work. It will work. If you have peaches or nectarines, anything, you can kind of follow that and just make a beautiful plum cake or whatever you have. It's really beautiful. And it's really yummy. It also is really lovely if you want to top it with a little powdered sugar on top at the end, just to add a little sweetness, because sometimes the plums can be slightly tart, but it's a really lovely, it's a not too sweet of a cake because of that plum flavor. It's really lovely. And it's not too thick of a cake either, you'll see in this little slice. So it's kind of a nice, almost like, I don't know, it's a unique cake and I adore it. It's lovely. For day three, we're making fruit skewers. These are kind of like your own DIY edible arrangements almost. And it's also great fine motor skills for your little ones to kind of put little things on their skewers, and great pattern building opportunities, right? So get a few berries, get some things, and have them actually think about what patterns of fruits they might want on their little skewers. If you want to do shapes, you can slice pineapple and then use cookie cutters to make shapes. You can, I think, do the same thing with watermelon. Anything you could kind of slice into a disc, you can punch out little shapes if you would like, and then talk about pattern building. Use those fine motor skills to build these sweet little fruit skewers. They're really cute. And then day three is just a fruit festival. Enjoy the party. Have the cake, have the skewers, maybe make some lemonade again from your picnic recipe, and enjoy a summer party inspired by Petty Pom's birthday. And have a summer garden party. Enjoy. Yes, I mean, someone said there's a very similar Polish family recipe. I call it breakfast cake, and you leave off the powdered sugar. Yes, so powdered sugar is definitely optional, but yeah, it's a really sweet, definitely not too sweet, so it could be a little breakfast cake. And then is the plums behind Petty Pom in his chalk art? Oh yes, and Petty Pom's in this. Here, these are his golden plums in his little golden plum tree. So yes, they're not lemons, they're golden plums. All right, so I'm gonna go now, rewind a little bit, and I'm gonna teach you a little more details on how to make this kite paper hot air balloon. This is a really unique, fun activity, but it can have a few tricky things, so I just wanna make sure you have what you need. And again, this is one of those activities that is intentionally a parent-child activity. Don't expect that your 5-year-old is gonna be able to just do this on their own. While there are some child-led and child-independent moments within the process, this whole activity is something that is intentionally you coming together and making something together. Because without your child, I doubt you would be making a paper mache hot air balloon, but without their adult, I doubt a child would be able to make this on their own. So it's one of those cool things that because you have each other, you get to make something special together, right? So there's gonna be moments that your child can really participate in, but absolutely also moments that you will probably just be assembling yourself, and then your child can enjoy it. And you can use it as a decoration or as a story prop or whatever you want, okay? So I'm going to flip back here and I'm going to just go through all of the steps here for your kite paper hot air balloons, all right? So as I mentioned, your main lesson day one, you're gonna start, now I'm gonna show you our kite paper here. So this is using this kite paper, it's the same paper as your window stars. I would really recommend actual kite paper instead of tissue paper because it's more sturdy. So sometimes you can get away with tissue paper for some other uses of kite paper, but I really recommend this is like a waxy paper. It needs to be thick enough to hold up. And some tips here. So the first part of this is going to be cutting this into strips. This is something that your children, this is a great part where your children can really take part of this independently. They can rip, they can cut. It is up to you if you want to do certain shapes, and then it is also up to you which colors. I do recommend 2 full layers of kite paper, and what we did is the first layer is we used white. So we used white for our first whole layer, and then we used colors. Now, you can choose whatever colors you'd like, but the lighter colors do tend to show the colors through a little bit more. So if we were to do this again, I probably would choose the very light green and very light yellow. And I know if we did this again, Nathaniel would want to like design like hot air balloon designs, but it could be whatever you want. You can use any color you want. All right, so first part of the paper mache is either cut or rip your kite paper. Now we used an entire like pack of each color. So if you have one of these packs, expect that you would use all of the white for your one layer and then like maybe half the green and half the yellow if you're doing 2 colors, or all of another color. So just keep in mind how much you'll use of one pack. Now, when it comes to kite paper mache, I have a little demonstration here. So here's my tip for setup, okay? I have a cup here and there's a rock, just like a rock from outside, a normal rock. And this is just to weigh this down. And you have your balloon and you're going to squeeze and that gives you your nice little setup so it doesn't fly away. So this is your little paper mache station. Now this of course can still get knocked into the air, but this is a great way to set up your station. Then you're gonna make your paper mache paste. It's a cup of flour, cup of water, whisk it until smooth, and then you're gonna gradually add 2 more cups of water while it's on the stove and simmering it, and it's gonna get nice and thick. Now keep whisking. Mine got really lumpy. It still worked even though it was lumpy, but to make a nice smooth paste, just, whisk that first flour and water and then slowly add the remaining water. Make it a nice thick gooey paste. We of course also have some, I think back here, gluten-free paper mache as well. Now we also tried to do, and people had no idea paper mache was flour and water. I just thought people used Mod Podge. We actually did try Mod Podge at first to see if it would work. It did not work. So here's my recommendation. Don't use Mod Podge. It doesn't work because paper mache, it's stiff, where Mod Podge is just a more flexible hold. So yes, paper mache is flour and water mixture. Be sure to actually make the real paper mache. Mod Podge will not work. Tried and failed. So I can guarantee that won't work. So use the paper mache instead of Mod Podge, okay? All right, so we have your station, and then you're gonna choose your colors, and then you're gonna just use an old paintbrush and cover this whole thing. You wanna coat it with the paper mache, paint the little paste, then stick it and then paint over it. So you kind of want to sandwich the kite paper in the layers of the paste. So you do a layer, do your paper, do another layer, and then another layer again after that, and make sure that it's all coated. So lots of paste, lots of paper, and this amount will be plenty for at least one balloon, all right? So then that is going to dry all the way overnight, okay? So any questions on kind of your first day part? Here's your balloon, make your paste, get your kite paper, layer that in 2 full layers of paper with your paper mache. Let that dry overnight, okay? Then the next day, here we have the assembly, okay? Who's ready? I'm gonna set this aside, and then I'm gonna take you step by step. I'm gonna grab our things here so we can see, okay? All right, so the little basket, you need one of these little egg cartons just cut out, and it's okay that this is, has little missing pieces here because you'll cover it with your twine. So you just need one little cutout egg carton thing. You're gonna need your twine and my favorite blunt end needle. However, you will also need something sharp to poke some holes through the egg carton. So I have a seam ripper here. You could also use a sharp needle, something like that. I have some wire. You'll need some wire for the top piece, and I'll tell you a little bit about the wire when we get to that point. Okay, and then at the end, you'll need a little tea light, okay? So here we go. We're going to go step by step now. So I'm going to have this open, and I'm going to go and explain step by step. So as you go back to your book, you can remember kind of what we did. So step 1, you have your single egg carton. Then you're going to thread this long, and look how long this is, this long piece of twine, because this is going to be what's wrapping all the way around. So you can even do a test wrap to make sure you have enough twine to cover the whole thing before you cut it. Knot at one end and thread your needle on the other end and just leave this out. You don't need to tie this on because you want to be able to remove the needle, okay? Then you're going to come from the inside to the outside. So I've poked a little hole here, boop, and this is going to be, I like to start, and when you do cut out your egg carton here, it's nice to have this little bit of lip overhang because it kind of helps keep the twine in place, okay? So we're going to go from the inside to the outside, see? Inside to the outside, boop, and then we're going to go through, and then we're going to pull this all the way through, all the way through. Nice long piece of twine. You get to see me do this in real time. Let's make sure we don't get tangled here. This is very much a live tutorial here, all right? Tangles, tangles, tangles. So maybe make sure you don't tangle your twine. Okay, here we go. And we're gonna keep going. And I have another tangle. Uh-oh, I have a real tangle. All right, so as you prepare for your twine, you can make sure that maybe your child assists you to make sure that there are no tangles as you thread your twine here, because this can happen, but it's nothing a little pulling can't fix. So we're gonna get our tangle out here before we finish, and you get to watch me do this because this is live. All right, do we love it? All right, okay, there we go. Voila. Okay, so we have our knot on the inside. Then easy part, step 2, wind the egg carton, okay? We're gonna start at the top. That little lip comes in handy. Thanks for bearing with me, friends. And then we're just gonna go around and around. Now, if you're way back in September, this might remind you of our yarn apple. This is a great place to pass off to your kids, okay? So put it through and then wind around and around and around until you completely cover. Now, at the end, the bottom where this, you're so real for this, thank you. At the bottom of this, it has have a tendency, if you're not careful, to just slip off. So kind of just hold this and just go all the way around. Use your fingers to keep it from popping off the bottom, okay? So we're gonna go around and around. And now you're not going to use all of this just for winding because we need to make the little rails next. So you might be tempted to just wind it all the way, but we need some of this. So once this is just really nice and covered, I'd rather you leave more than you need for the end. So this looks nice to me, okay? So you see this, we have a nicely covered little basket. I'm holding the bottom here so that the twine doesn't slip off. Now, we are going to take this needle and we want to go back through, but we want to not use the top or the bottom because that's where we're going to be putting our next holes. So we just need to get this back on the inside of this. So I'm going to use this and I'm just going to poke right in the middle, and it doesn't really matter where this is. It's just somewhere for the needle to go. So I'm poking right in the middle of this, and then I'm going to find that spot and poke this from the middle, from the outside to the inside, okay? And it takes a little, there we go. So Reminder, this is going out here, and then we're just getting this needle back through to the inside of the little thing. And then we're gonna pull this nice and tight, okay? So, there we have, and you'll see how this is trying to fall off already. We'll fix that in a second. We have this there. So now we have our nicely wrapped little carton, and our thread and our needle are on the inside of our egg carton. Now we're gonna be starting to make the rails of the basket. And we're going to be making 6 rails. So the rest of the construction is going to be in 6s. We're gonna have 6 rails. We're gonna have 6 holes in our little our little light holder, and we're gonna have 6 like things that go around these guys, around the whole balloon, all right? So then we're gonna come to the bottom of this little carton, and we're gonna use our little poker, don't poke your fingers, and we're gonna poke out a little space for the bottom. Okay, then from the inside to the outside through that little hole, we're going to go and make sure you're underneath all of this wrapped things. This is gonna be what's gonna start to hold this in place. So from the inside to the outside, okay? And then we're going to go from the outside to the inside straight up. So this is creating these rails that the other twine will be connecting, and this is how the basket will be connected to the balloon. So vertically right there, I'm gonna use my little puncher, and I'm gonna punch my little hole carefully, okay? And I'm gonna just punch it through, and can be kind of tricky, so careful. Punch, 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 okay? And then right vertically there, we're gonna go from the front to the back and get it through, okay? And then pull it, and then you're gonna have a nice little rail. See that? And then that's already starting to hold all that twine in place. Now we're gonna repeat this 6 times, okay? So we're gonna go from back to the front and the bottom, rail number 2, right here, and then we're gonna come up vertically. Now, I have my other little hole here where I started, so I'm gonna make sure that it's not too close to that because I don't want them to like poke all the way through. So let's find a little spot right there, will work, okay? And then from the outside to the inside, poke this, and it can be tricky. So this is an adult part of your activity. And we're gonna make rail number 2. This wasn't completely vertical, but that's okay. So rail number 2, and because this is live, there's gonna be no fast forward, so you get to see me do this whole thing. Actually, let me see if we actually do, because I have this one, so I might be able to just pass off, okay? So that is how we make the 6 rails. So we're gonna make 1, 2, 3, we're gonna make 6 evenly distributed vertical rails from the inside to the outside of the bottom, coming up to the top. And I think that's all. I don't think I need to actually go through each one of these. And then after that, you're just gonna tie a knot and tie this off so that it's secure, all right? Any questions on basket construction? And then I'm gonna go flip over here because this one is done. So I can show you here how this one has these 6 rails, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way around. It's nicely holding that twine in place and then just tied off, all right? Okay, I think we're good to skip ahead. So that is how you construct your basket. Then you carry on and put that aside. You might still need your poker tool. All right, so then we're going to get to the balloon construction, okay? So the top, you're going to get a piece of wire, and this is shown in step 7. And this is a little piece of wire, and I'm gonna show you kind of what this is here, okay? So you're gonna use your little poker and poke the very top of your balloon. And then you see this little shape. You're essentially making a little eyelet here and having enough wire to hold up the balloon. Okay, so this is really just, it doesn't have to be exactly this length, but it's really just enough to hold up the balloon. And then what you're gonna do, and of course, if this is already mostly constructed, so you'd be doing this before any twine is on here, you're just poking it through so that it can hold up your balloon. You see that? So then this little piece of wire is holding it up, and you just thread it through, and that little L shape that you kind of put it in is holding this up. Now, you'll want a thick enough wire for this. I don't have the specific like gauge of the wire. I do have another example of a slightly thinner wire. If you have slightly thinner wire, just double it up and you can do the same thing and it'll help strengthen it. So just want to make sure it's strong enough to hold this up, okay? Once that's set, you're gonna set it aside and you're gonna make the base for your tea light, okay? So this is just a little piece. I use just watercolor paper or cardstock. about, the size of your little thing here, so maybe 2 inches. And again, just 6 holes all the way around. So you can kind of see just 6 little hole punches all the way around. Your child can help you with this if you want. It's really nicely depicted in step 9. Then our next piece is we're going to make, guess how many? 6 little holes near the base of the balloon here, but not too close to the edge because we don't want it to rip out. So this is about 1 inch away from the bottom, and you're just gonna poke your 6 holes, and as you can see, this is where the twine is gonna go. So you're gonna poke your 6 holes around the base of your balloon. Now I should mention also, before you get to this point, you will need to pop the balloon. So once you have your finished paper mache, you'll pop the balloon and carefully peel the balloon out from the paper mache thing, and then it'll be nice and hard like this. All right, okay, so we have our little hanger eyelet in there. We have our cardstock ready. Now, as you can see here, this is mostly constructed, and I am going to show you the last one, how to do the last one, and then that'll explain how it's all done, and then you can see how I finish it off, and then you can fill in the blanks, hopefully, to how it is all done. So, to make these connect, we're gonna get a long piece of twine, about like this, see? You're going to twist and tie the middle of that twine to your little eyelet here. And then each side is going to come down on either side of your balloon. Okay? You see how that's working? So then I'm going to take my trusty little blunt end needle again, and I'm going to take one end. We're going to thread that back through. Okay? And then from the outside of the balloon, through that little hole, we're going to take this twine to the inside. Now this might take a little work to just pull this through. There we go. And so now we have this twine going through. Do you see that? Right there at the bottom, on the outside, going through to the inside there. Then we're going to line up our cardstock. This is where we're going to hold that little tea light, and we're going to use this twine and go through one of those little punched holes. Now, of course, as you go, you'll need to make sure that everything is aligning with the strings on both sides, going to 2 opposite holes there, okay? So we're gonna go through that, and then we're going to tie this in place a bit so that it stays in place. So you're gonna do a little knot here. So I'm just gonna do a little knot here, okay? So we're gonna tie. So we go through from top to bottom of our cardstock from the outside, tie a little knot, and then this last piece is going to tie onto the rails that we just made from our basket. So see these little rails here? You can easily just get underneath one of those, and you probably don't even need your little needle anymore. And you're going to just use your fingernails and get this twine underneath this rail. And then you're going to tie these together. All right. Now, this is a little short because I had already constructed this and trimmed it, but hopefully you'll have a little extra tail so you can more easily make a knot, but I can still get that done. There, a nice little knot there. And then you see how that goes. So from the outside, through the hole, to the cardstock, to the rail. All right, so I'm gonna do that one more time just so you can see it on the other side, just to make sure we've all got it, and then I'll show you kind of the last little piece of the kind of finishing touches on this. Any questions I can answer kind of as I do this last piece. So a reminder, this is secured in the middle around the eyelet, and then we're gonna make sure that the one I just did goes all the way across. See how that is a straight line all the way across to the other side. We're gonna find that hole we made. We're gonna go from the outside to the inside and pull. And then we're going to get this all through. We're gonna pull that excess through there, and then find, for me, this is the last open little hole punch, but this would be directly across from the hole punch of the one you just did. Pull that through. And then we're going to make a little knot just to tie, kind of keep this cardstock in place. And then we're gonna go find that last remaining rail. Just tie that. We're gonna go find this last remaining rail to tie this in place and finish off our little hot air balloon, and then we're almost done, all right? So one thing to kind of like take a note of, as you're tying these, you do want to see, you'd want to try to make all of these as even as possible, because if you do one too short, then it kind of gets a little cattywampus, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So get that last rail and you're going to just tie it off. Now, after this, let me show you, I have this. So you want to make sure that your cardstock is low enough to get your little tea light in. And then I have one fun last thing at the end. So here we are, we have your eyelet holding up these strings. The strings are going through the balloon, through the cardstock to our little egg carton basket. Then we're gonna take a little tea light and of course, this isn't gonna turn on. Pretend I got a new one, but it's not turning on. So pretend this is turning on, and we're gonna stick this carefully into here. And now let's see if this works. So one thing that Nathaniel kind of figured out is if you twist your balloon, it will raise the, cardstock right inside. Do you see that? Magic. So then that actually raises the light up into the hot air balloon. And if that light decided to turn on, it would really be glowing. So you twist the top and then it tightens all of those strings and it goes whoop, and then that light gets taken up into the balloon. And then of course you can stick a little gnome in here. And if you want to, you can tape the final twist if you want a little piece of tape. And then if you want to remove your light, you can untwist and pull it down to get it out and then twist again. It's kind of a cool construction how it pulls everything up. So twist it up and then you'll have your light all the way up in there glowing for your hot air balloon. You can tape the top to take that kind of twist in place. You can hang it as a night light, as a lantern. It is really fun. So again, a little bit of an involved craft, but certainly worth doing. And it sounds cumbersome, but once you get it, it is pretty simple. Just follow the holes around. And there you go. All right, hot air balloons for summer. How fun is that? It's such a sweet story to hear how Petty Palm wanted everyone to join him up in the sky and that they constructed this amazing hot air balloon. And in the story, it was constructed out of paper birch and pine resin. But here in our activity, of course, this is kite paper. And it's just so fun to see the kite paper, the colors of the kite paper. As I mentioned before, with traditional paper mache, you're using newsprint and it's a very opaque and then you paint. But how fun that we get to use this beautiful translucent colored paper to immediately have this color and have the light shine through. All right, so thank you all for hanging out with me for an hour and a half as I've yapped about so many things in July, but it is such a fun month, so many sweet songs, lots of fun activities, and I think you and your children will really enjoy this one. I can't wait to see what colors you all choose. It's gonna be so much fun, and of course, this replay will be clipped out for you so you can go back and say, what was she saying about the twine? But thank you. Any quick questions before we sign off for today? Otherwise, replays will be up very soon, so hopefully those won't have the auto replay. I usually post same day, and that's going to be the internet lag replay. So that'll be exactly what you saw here with any internet quirks. But later this week, we'll get the high quality version straight from the camera. Everything will be nice, clear, and crisp, and we'll get that to you as soon as we can with all those clips. Thank you. I will be back next month for August, and that one is our spoiler alert, overview there, and I will be going in depth on the last story in the last week. So just prepare for that emotionally, but it'll be really good. I'm excited to dive into that last story with you, to prepare you all and to be able to prepare your children for it. And I can't believe that next month we'll already be going over August. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me for so long. Keep an eye out for updates as always. We appreciate you. Always such a fun time. And we will see you next time. Bye, friends.